It can get any juicier than this, you think? You think it can get juicier than this? You think so? Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. Oh, yeah. Let me see if the phone is ringing. Ching-a-ling, ching-a-ling.
That's there.
Oh, Lavern!
Oh, it's a wandering kind of call.
You chief operative bringer into the country. What's going on?
I mean, I don't know what you guys are doing, bringing in people from all over the Caribbean. Like, that's uncalled for. That's not acceptable. Why would you guys do that?
What happened?
This is my kingdom. Nobody should come here without me saying so.
What happened last time in that rally? What was that rally? What was the stop?
What's the stop?
My understanding is that the man afraid the awesomeness that exists around Siobhan John as they see the thing tumbling down around them and they figure to try to show some salt there. But I mean, the truth is the vibe and the energy of the people in North Windward. I mean, I don't know since one of vehicle whistle stop can drive through one place to go to the next and turn back. Apparently, they told them, this is the PM constituency, you can't drive down here. I heard that this is what the officers told them. To my knowledge, Chief Neptune was also there, and so by right, if he wanted the truck to go over the border. And I've never known, because some constituency have to drive through one to get to the next. So what if you drive over the boundary line? I find it to be a reaction that is tantamount to, I mean, it's a different level of desperation we're seeing out of the ULP this year. And I mean, it only goes to show that they're on the back foot and that people are ready for a new Democratic Party government. When you see things like that, I mean, it's a whistle stop. Come on, guys. It's just vibe. I find things like that are unnecessary, and you don't do good for your party. You only make it look worse and bad. And
but I want you do one thing for me, though. I want you have a chat with Godwin, because this right thing we telling people about the.
I know everybody know that there's only one party talk about warriors. I'm going to get a little warriors. So this sort of thing, I mean, I don't understand the narrative from the ULP. One of the things I'll say, though, is the ULP is stuck in the past. They have been doing this thing where it's the same campaign issue they're going on in 2015 and 2020. Guys, get with the times. People don't want to hear about passport and Chinese, and people want to know what you're going to do for them. People want to know how you're going to address the cost of living crisis. And this fear-mongering that is in the ULP's campaign, it reeks desperation, it reeks doing anything. I mean, it's crazy. Look, for example, this morning, we were just going over the voters list, and I see Siobhan Stewart registered to vote in Union Island. How did she get to do that? She's never lived there. And even when she went down there in the last couple of weeks coming up to nomination, she's been going down there for 3 days and back up on the mainland. So the ULP is doing a set of things that are kind of just very questionable at this time.
You have to be living in a constituency. How long again?
For 6 months, to my knowledge. I think that there's a level, people have to be very vigilant as we go to the polls, and we have to make sure that we go out and vote, because we have to ensure that we win so big that there's no margin, no room for any sort of conclusion about recount for everything. So make sure that you go out early to the polls on Thursday. Don't leave this job to anybody else. Make sure that you know you have a purpose in your heart, that you want to see a change of government. Make a plan. If you don't have a right, call me, message your representative, call the constituency officer, we'll transport you there. I mean, when you look at the entirety of this campaign, Luke and Jaga and Tukul, you see that there's a different level of desperation coming out of the ULP camp. And so I want to encourage people not to give in to the fearmongering, not to give in to the intimidation, because Ralph and them don't have the title deed to this country. And when you talk about power hungry, you know, you have a man who been there and don't want to leave after 25. I mean, God promised us, if you're a biblical person, 10, right? The man well into overtime and don't want to go. You don't have grandkids. You don't have loved ones to spend time with. I mean, it's crazy to me. Nobody wants you home. They want you out of the house every day.
All right. Lavern, let me ask you this. There were some rumors circulating yesterday about the officers at the polling stations and some of them being affiliated with parties like ULP, some being ULP heavy. Is there any truth to that from your standpoint? Or is that
I
just...
think that people in the constituencies, the presiding officers, people always make complaints about political associations with them. But I'll tell you how this works. On polling day, each political party is allowed an agent on the inside. The agent is meant to look out for the interests of their respective parties.
Okay.
And so for me, what I encourage people to focus on is the fact that the NDP has spent the past 2 years doing a lot of groundwork in training our agents, and they're prepared to go to each and every polling station to make sure that our rights and our interests is looked out for. So what it means is that it doesn't matter who is there. Once you go and you mark your X properly, the presiding officer is just there for the counting part of it, right?
Right.
And so if you start with 100 ballots, right, at the beginning of election, at the opening of polls, just before the polls are open, the representative from both parties as well as the presiding officer is there. If you have 100 ballots, you will both shake the box, search the box, put your hand in the box, shake it down, make sure there's nothing in it. You will each count the number of ballots that is given to that particular polling station. So what it means is if you give me 100 at the start, at the end when polls are closed and we count up everything should come back to 100, whether or not it is used, whether or not it was you have to replace,
etc. Yeah.
Right, and whether or not those cast for NDP and hopefully non-casted at some polling station for ULP. The point is that no matter how you twist it and turn it, you will end back up with 100 ballots, right?
Right.
And our agents have been trained. They were trained by Maya Eustace, Vita Barnwell, Louise Mitchell, Samantha, other lawyers that have been Akin John and so forth. So our agents are well equipped and they know the task that they have to do on Thursday. So the job as voters, all you have to do is do your part and go out and vote. That is the important part. So all these other things about whether or not this is the presided officer is swayed one way or the other, you don't worry about that. We have it covered. We did our work. We made sure that every single thing that we saw. So, for example, yesterday I know that person saw the mock ballot whereby it seems that the electoral office didn't prepare them with in alphabetical order. So, say, for example, Chevron John Grace Walters, you know that John should come first on the ballot. The mock ballot that was released by the electoral office had all the ULP names first. Our lawyers were in touch with the supervisor of election and she assured us that it has been corrected. So we are doing all the work on our end to ensure that things go as they should on election day. So our invitation to the electorate is to do your part, which is to show up to the polls. Don't sit it out. They're hoping by throwing out all of these fear-mongering things that you'll say, you know what, let me be safe and stay home because I don't want to be a part of nothing. So we want to give you the assurance that none of that is going to happen. We have trained our agents properly. We have super agents who are the lawyers who will be going around in every constituency to ensure that everything is as they should be. And we are prepared legally to do what is necessary so that we have a free and fair elections. This is not just for NDP. This is for Vincentians. Every Vincentian deserves the right to have their will be reflected and done in accordance to who they want governing them. So free and fair elections would work for both political parties, so long as we allow the process to happen as it should. And I think that as a democracy, that is in any healthy democracy, things like that should be welcome. So if you have additional CARICOM or regional lawyers who are in, we should welcome things like that because what it means is that we welcome and we embrace the democratic process and to ensure that T's are crossed and I's are dotted. That's not something anybody should push back on.
Can you assure people that their ballot is confidential?
Yes, so ballots are confidential. We have done a series of voter education videos as well to let people know how it works. When you go in there, you will receive your ballot. It will be folded, the counted foil. It has to be stamped as well. And our agents will also look out to ensure that everything that should be done will be done and that your ballot is secret. You have every confidence and nobody knows who you're voting for. And also another thing that a lot of people don't know, if you make an error for whatever reason, you make an error on your ballot paper, you're actually allowed to ask for a new one. So if you say, shit, I messed this up, and your intent for who you want to vote for is not properly reflected, you could say, damn, give me a new paper. You're actually allowed to do that. That's something that people don't know traditionally. So if you figure the X was a little bit too big and it isn't squarely at the T, you can ask for a new ballot, right? Additionally, one of the things that people don't know is that if for some reason you're going to the polling station and you forget your national ID at home, you can still vote once your name is on the voters list, because each polling station is equipped with what we call the poll cards. The poll cards are to be placed there from the electoral office. It's an exact replication of your voter's ID, your national ID, and so they'll be able to identify you. But for your safety and for ease of everything, to make sure that you get in and out, walk with your ID card or a valid form of ID. So, for example, I have voted with my driver's license. This year, I plan to vote with my passport. So you can absolutely vote with a valid form of ID, and if all else fails, they're what we call poll cards at the polling station. So don't make anybody tell you, boy, your ID can't go. That is absolutely not true. Still show up. And the last thing too is, once you're in the line, stay in the line when 5 o'clock comes. So some people be like, shit, at 5 o'clock I gotta leave the line. No, you're absolutely allowed to stay in the line once 5 o'clock meets you in the line. And this election is too important for you to not stay. One of the things voters could be assured of as well is we have people with water, umbrella, different things. If rain comes, we'll be able to have umbrellas over your head. We're very equipped in different ways to ensure that you get the opportunity to cast your ballot. And I tell you something, for me personally, if the rain comes, I stay in there because I want this government gone. And this task is but once in a generation that we have. We can't risk 5 more years of the ULP. I'll wrap up by saying this, loop. We have seen a very aggressive campaign from this election. We've seen the NDP lay out clear plans about how we're going to address the cost of living crisis. We've seen the NDP come and stick to message. The NDP has, I think, run a very disciplined campaign on messaging and our plans for the people. And we see the track record of the ULP, St. Vincent and Grenadines, at the highest crime rate that we have ever seen in a long time, that it has ever been. St. Vincent is actually worse than Jamaica now. Can you imagine
over 250 homicides in 5 years? That was right.
I mean, it's crazy. And not only that, what I find the most nauseating is that while people are screaming and complaining and talking about the cost of living crisis, we have the Prime Minister talking about how his son had a small boat last year and a bigger boat this year. We hear conversations of him having condos in Miami. We hear conversations about family members having homes. I mean, they have properties here in St. Vincent, but also in other neighboring islands. And if they're thriving and doing so well, I'm happy for people who work hard. But you have ordinary Vincentians there who can't even pay their rent, much less own a home in one place, which is in their home country. And then we have people on contract who work that they're not even doing. And then you have the brother-in-law with contract for $40,000 a month. And you have young people here who can't even get a job for $1,200 a month. I think the ULP has gotten to a point where they're so greedy and so self-absorbed that they're far removed from the reality of what is facing Vincentians.
All right.
And I think this election, you have one task. Go out and say to them that you don't have the title deed to this country. Give the New Democratic Party the opportunity to make a difference for yourself and your family members. This election is important. Go out and vote. Go to our website. If you're not too sure where your polling station is, ndpsvg.com, and you will know where it is.
All right. Thank you, Lavern.
In your hand is more than just a bottle. It's the
At the polling station, the presiding officer will write your voter's ID number at the top of the ballot, then stamp and initial it. You will be given the ballot paper by the presiding officer. Before entering the polling booth, take a moment to check your ballot. Make sure it has the official stamp and initials. If it does not, immediately bring it to the attention of the presiding officer. Once you have a properly stamped and initialed ballot, enter the polling booth. Using the pencil provided, clearly mark your X in the box next to the key symbol. After marking your choice, Fold your ballot in a way that leaves the stamp and initials visible and return it to the presiding officer. The presiding officer will inspect your fingers and then you will dip your index finger into the indelible ink. The presiding officer will then tear off the counterfoil. This is the section that contains your voter's ID. The counterfoil is placed in a separate envelope, while your ballot is placed into the ballot box. This ensures that your vote is completely private. No one will ever know who you voted for. Thank you. You have now successfully completed the voting process.